Very nice. Very
Slay, so
beautiful.
pretty.
All right. Are we ready to begin?
I'm ready.
Yes.
Ready. Okay. I'll do the little intro. So, ahoy! Welcome to the Crow's Nest. This is season 1, episode 3. With today's special guest, Ariel Tundrawave or Ariel. And then also
Yes.
Toilet Emily Night Valley and Felix Felicia Lowcrest. Just a little introduction for each of us. Toilet has been in the SSO community for 11 years, has owned clubs for roughly half that time. Uh, she owns Crystal Pirates, co-owns Royal Regiment Dressage, and is also instructor for the Dressage Academy. Ari is the former owner of Blue Pearls United, later rebranded into Enchanted Doves Nation, and that was from February of 2023 until October of 2024. And then for me, Felix, I'm a leader instructor with Crystal Pirates, and I also instruct with TDA, SSD, and JDC. And I'm also a huge advocate for volunteering and community engagement. We have Craig in the chat. We're all Gucci. All right. Okay, I'll just quickly introduce the first topic and then we can get to yippity yappeting. So first topic, like it says on the slideshow, is how do you deal with critique as a club owner, and how does this affect your mental health? And just a little disclaimer, please note that we are not mental health professionals. We will be speaking about our own experiences and what helped us get through those situations. If you need help with your mental health, please seek out a professional. Okay, thank you for standing by while I speed around that. Does anybody want to begin with this first topic discussion?
Oh, I don't mind. Whoever
Yeah.
wants to begin.
Eat it up, eat it up, eat it up.
Okay. I'm low-key regretting not putting enough on my notes, but it's okay. I'll just yap. So honestly, critique as a club owner can be hard because there's certain things and like certain tones that people come across that like you never know how to take it. Especially if it's coming from your own members. Like text, it's hard to like know if like
Mhm.
someone's being like genuinely concerned or they're just wanting to be like plain out rude. And some people like they can't word it like correctly or like in a way that makes it easy to understand. So it can get hard. Um, it honestly depends on the level of critique. For me, from experience, I know it's a little hard because I'm gonna admit I'm a very emotional person. So when I have like members DMing me, like I'm just using members as an example, let's say just a random night and they DM me like a bunch of paragraphs of like, hey, this is how I feel, blah blah blah. They keep on going, especially if it's all in one go. It's like, okay, I'm reading this. I'm like trying to make sure like I understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, it's like it can also get like very emotional depending on the type of critique, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And then like you were talking about like how tone it's hard to
Oh yes.
like read over text. Then do you think
Mhm.
it's like what's the word I'm looking for here? Is it good to like see if you can call with them, like have a voice call so that you can better hear their tone of voice? Is that something productive to do, or like does it depend on
I
what the critique is?
say, honestly, it would depend on what the critique is. Like, if they're just
Mm-hmm.
genuinely pointing out, like, hey, I want like practices to be more productive. That's
Yeah.
honestly like something really easy over text. But if it involves like something that goes like deeper into like the club like atmosphere and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then I would say it's much easier if they're comfortable doing it over call, just because you can understand people better over call.
Right.
Mhm.
I feel like you can also get more detail over call and like
Yes.
you can be more honest if that makes sense. Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
typing something, whether you're receiving the message or you yourself are replying, like you can sometimes spend too much time thinking about what you're going to say, and
Mm-hmm.
um, but then if you're like having a genuine conversation over call, sometimes it can be like they can feel like they can be more honest with you, or maybe they'll like include more
Yeah.
details that they wouldn't have thought about if they were typing. Um,
Yeah. I
but
just
yeah, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword because uh, maybe if they're really upset or you're really upset, it could potentially be worse.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It definitely is a double-edged sword. Two things that I
Mm-hmm.
thought about just listening to you guys yap a little bit. We have this in the Crystal Parts open server, and this is also like I find it really important whenever I'm trying to have conversations revolving club stuff, because maybe it gets depending on the person. Tone tags. Tone tags.
Mm,
Oh
Yes.
yeah, those
We have a
help.
list. Yeah, we have a list in our open server, in this open server. Me to those, like I didn't know what they were. And then Tira was like, "Hey, did you know these were a thing?" And I was like, "No." But now I use them a lot and they're actually really helpful. So I definitely recommend doing tone tags. And my second, just whenever I'm hearing you guys talk,
Mhm.
voice memos. If it's like maybe
Yes.
you have a member who's from like a different time zone and it's gonna be really hard to meet and like it just won't happen. Voice memos could be your best friend because I love them so much. It's the thing on Discord where you can just record a message and it will stay there and the other person can listen to it whenever. So it's kind of like texting, but also you can get a bit of that tone whenever you're communicating.
Sunny was on the same brainwave as you.
Oh, really? Wait, let me
Yeah,
go to the call chat. Are they in the
in the
call chat?
chat, in the call chat, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too tone tags are helpful because like not everybody is good at reading the subtext, if that makes sense, like what's not being said. So when you use
Mhm.
tone tags, you're like very obviously saying like, "Hey, I'm being sarcastic here," or "I'm being genuine," or so for people who are neurodivergent or neurospicy, that can be helpful for them because sometimes it's not really clear over text
Mhm.
what kind of tone you're trying to convey. Also, too, some people have like varied senses of humor, and then if the other
Yeah.
person is not familiar with their specific sense of humor or how they phrase things, they might be like, "What are they trying to say? I don't understand." And then tone tags really come in clutch in that moment.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Honestly, yeah, on the tone tag topic, we had a member. I don't know exactly when they joined our club. I'd have to look back, but it was when Blue Pearls were still before Blue Pearls rebranded, and they had like introduced me to tone tags, because I like didn't know they were a thing at first, and then like I found it really helpful to use them once I learned about them, especially like
Mhm.
because they were one of our more communicative members. And so especially when they were, like, texting me, like, I was able to understand, like, the way they're trying to come off.
Mm,
Hmm. Helps
yeah, for
create like
sure.
a sense of empathy for one another. Helps communicate.
Mm,
Yes. But yeah,
yeah, we
I just
we
I
love
found this
communication.
helpful.
Yes, we
Mhm.
do. Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
but yeah.
Okay, I have a point that I would love to discuss.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, okay, so this is a me thing. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you guys can relate to this, but this is just kind of like a general thing, like dealing with critique. I kind of, at least for me, I think of like when somebody leaves the club, I usually ask them if they have critique. So those two have just kind of like merged in my head a little bit. Just a little background for where I'm coming from. So for me, whenever I'm dealing with critique, like affecting your mental health kind of thing, having like an outlet of like dealing with the critique, understanding it at face value, but then maybe getting your emotions out. So what I
Mm,
like to do, this is just a me thing. Whenever I get critique, if it makes me really emotional, I like to listen to music because I find that like I can
Oh.
relate to the words, or like I'll just go for a drive and just like scream music in the car and just like
mm,
have a little me moment. Um, so I like to do that whenever I get critique, write it down first, and then I'm like, okay, this kind of made me sad, or this made me happy, and then I'll go for a little drive, scream to my music, and be like, yay, or oh. And then I typically feel better. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to actually sit down and reread the critique kind of thing.
yeah,
Mhm.
like giving yourself space. Like you might want to respond right away, but often that's not the best choice because it's going to be emotionally charged for you, and you're not
Mhm.
giving yourself enough time to digest what the critique is. You might just be upset and not really
Hmm.
fully like taking in what the critique is, whether it was very nicely worded or very poorly worded. Um, so yeah, definitely giving yourself space and time. I think too, also what's helpful is if you can separate in your head you as a person and then you as a club owner. So the critique is directed to you as a
Yes.
club owner and you as a person is something completely different. So if you can like, yeah, if that's helpful. And then also too, like what I found works well is if you take the text of the critique and then you reword it with less emotional language. So if they used really um like emotionally charged words like awful, terrible, I hated, you can change it to I disliked or this wasn't the best, you know? Make a little bit less
Hmm.
kind of like and then reread it. See if
Yeah.
having that less kind of like heavy emotional language kind of helps you better digest the rest of the critique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really
I think
good
that's really
point.
good. Me and Ari, you guys can't see me, but
Yeah.
I'm nodding aggressively at everything you guys have said.
Honestly, though, like mental health in clubs is hard because like you want to be there for your members too. Like you don't want to be like,
Mm,
oh, we can't tell her anything because she's just gonna get like mad at us, or
mhm,
like
Mm.
upset. Not really mad, but like upset. Like you don't want that. Like you, of course, you can't like control how others feel, but like your mental health, like I feel like a lot of club owners, especially members, but I've like just my experience as a club owner, I feel like a lot of people forget that like you have to focus on your mental health because at the end of the day, like it's a pixel pony game, and like people are gonna come and go. Like people will stay in your club for however long the club lasts or until they can't anymore. And then there'll be some people that, will be there for a bit and then just leave under whatever circumstance. And I just like
Mhm.
mhm.
I want to like oh, I can't word this. Like I feel like it's important for like mini owners and leaders to like remember that like at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you're okay before you're like taking charge of your own club.
Right, for sure. And then I think too, also what a lot of people don't think about when they want to start a club or like a team is the amount of work that you need to put into it,
Mm-hmm.
and how sustainable is that for you in the long term. So we've talked about this before in previous Crow's Nest, but like say you want to host like 3 or 4 things a week. Can you do this week over week, month over month, and even possibly year over year? Is that something you can do? You need to kind of be honest with yourself. I do have the energy for this, or actually
Yes.
I don't. And then
Yeah.
you said something interesting too about like how your members might not want to come and talk to you because they're like afraid that they can't give
Mhm.
you feedback. So I'm just curious from you two, like, what do you think are ways that you can encourage feedback from your members? Kind of like thinking about like, let me get the
Mhm.
feedback as like quickly as possible so it doesn't get like down the road to something really big that we can't fix.
Yes.
So like, how do you encourage people to like come to you earlier? You guys have thoughts?
Um, Honestly, when we rebranded into Enchanted Doves, I was more
Mm-hmm.
concerned about like our well-being of our members because some things happened and it just gave me like a new light into like club owning,
Mm-hmm.
learning experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did actually, I think we opened it up, but I didn't like set up separate channel for it until Enchanted Doves rebranded. And it was like a response form that's like completely anonymous unless you want to
Mm-hmm.
state who you are. And I found that like, some people just genuinely aren't comfortable with like confrontation or
Yeah.
like just like wanting to express their thoughts. So I thought like with a form they can like let us know how they feel like in a constructive criticism. I'm so sorry. But
Mm-hmm.
like not where they have to feel like, oh my gosh, she's gonna know it's me. What if she doesn't like me after this or something like
Right.
that?
Mm.
And I feel like also with like when I do get feedback, like especially now, like there were some times that I will admit, like feedback, like I just didn't take well when I was like new into cloning. But now like you grow and stuff, and it's like um I encourage people to be like, hey, my DMs are always open, like you can always come talk to me, or you can go talk to the other leaders or a different club member, and just mainly like want them to make me feel like I'm not gonna judge you, like you can be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think that's really valuable. Something that I like to do, I sometimes get into this mindset where I'm like, oh my, like, especially for example, past me, like comp routines is like, oh my gosh, if we don't have enough people, we're not going to get a recording. And I'd get so stressed about that. But especially
Mhm.
recently now, whenever people come to me with like concern or critique, or even if it's just to be like, hi, how's your day? Um, no matter what it is, I try to, before, kind of like Felix, I'm pretty sure you mentioned this, like separate the club owner from the person. Like when people come to me, I try to be the person first. So if they'll be like, hey, my day's going bad, but I also have some feedback about the club. First, I'll respond to the, hey, my day's going bad, and I'll be like, why? Let's talk about that first,
Yeah.
because that could help me see maybe why they're suddenly giving feedback and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that also makes it to where people are like, okay, they're going to treat me like an actual person. And I actually feel comfortable coming forward and talking to them about both my struggles and like my happiness kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, so then
Mhm.
I'm curious too what you guys think, like if you got like some critique and maybe you were able to resolve things and the club member stayed, or maybe they kind of came to you and said, okay, this is my critique and I'm leaving as a result because I
Mhm.
feel for whatever reason, maybe it just wasn't the right fit for them and they're just trying to give you like constructive criticism before they move on. Or maybe it's just like, no, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I love the club, but this was the thing that made me want to let go. How open do you guys think you should be with your other club members about what happened? Like, um, yeah, like how transparent do you want to be about the whole situation? And like, for example, if you make changes as a result of the critique, do you want to be going and saying,
Mhm.
hey, this member left, or you don't even have to mention their name, but a past member kind of gave me this information and I want to get your guys' input. Like how would you guys go about that?
Um, Honestly, that one's hard because like there's so many situations that can happen with like,
Mm-hmm.
critique and sorry, with like critique and people leaving the club.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you have to take into account like with the person leaving and let's say like they left with a critique. Um, I think you have to take into account like how others will react because like we had a member who was like really close with everyone in the club because we were like smaller. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone was like really close with each other, but they had some concerns, and I'd have to go back into our messages to like see exactly what happened. But like basically, they had concerns, and they just like felt like they weren't fitting into the club anymore, if that makes sense. And they
Yeah.
had left, and like a few people got upset because they're like, "Oh no, she left! Like we're really close with her, and like we really liked her." And I'm like, and so I felt at that time, I was like, "Hey, like, like, I don't want," because especially when they were being ugh, them being close with her, like, I didn't want being, like, bombarded with questions and, like,
Right.
concerns. Like, "Hey, why did you left?" So I just, like in the little leaving section, I was just like, "We're just gonna give her some time, just, like, you can be supportive, just make sure you're not like, 'Hey, hey, why'd you do this? Why'd you leave? What happened?'" And
Mm-hmm.
then we did, like, mention, like, she left because she had, some concerns about the club, and then pretty sure because she left because was help. She left because of the concerns about and like how she just like was get stressed, I feel like. And
Mm.
we just told them like she just felt like it wasn't working out and we just gave them like the basic rundown. I don't remember exactly what it was. I have to go back. But we just gave them like a really brief rundown. And I feel like that was the biggest thing that was like ever like a critique that we had and it
Mm-hmm.
evolved in like the club members needing to be in the happen. And the
Right.
leaders, of course, knew because they helped, but, like, the members, they were kind of like they knew that she left and she didn't really, like, fit like, she felt like she just didn't fit into the club, I'm pretty sure, but, like, they didn't know exactly what happened because I didn't wanna give away, like, personal information, and I was like, "If they go to her and she wants it, like, that's okay."
Hmm. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I found it interesting that you said like a leaving channel. We also have something similar to that in Crystal Pirates. Like when people leave, it'll send a little message, and then also if
Yeah.
people drop down to the mascot position, we have a channel where we send a little message.
Mhm.
Um, so it was interesting to see that you had that. Mm,
I always encourage them.
repeat that. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying I always encourage them, like,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
if you wanna leave a message, you're, like, more than welcome to.
Yes. Okay. I was just about to say, whenever people leave Crystal Pirates, we also have like an HR reach out, obviously be like, "Hey, why are you leaving? Can you give feedback?" And then we also ask if they want to send like a goodbye letter, or, like a goodbye message. And something that
Mhm.
we've been doing in Crystal Pirates is we ask the member for the message and then we send it for them when we remove them. And that can also help like kind of how we're talking about critique, and especially if the critique is really negative, like Felix, you were saying,
Mhm.
like if it's filled words like awful and da 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 da. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of good that we have that barrier because if people are just going to paste a message and be passive aggressive, that's not going to get us anywhere. So that's been kind of helpful for us so that we can like actually talk with them one on one. get feedback from them, and then typically at the end of the conversation, since we've communicated, there it will all go dandy.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah,
I
definitely
definitely
agree.
agree with like members feeling like they can be open, if that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it does.
I think that's all for what I have to say on the
Wait, I
topic.
have a question that I thought of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you guys think about this? Is drama surrounding your club, just any way you can think of it, is drama surrounding your club a form of negative critique? Why or why not?
Mm, Um, I don't know, Felix, if you want to answer first or you want me
Yeah,
to.
I think it can definitely be because if drama crops up and you're not taking action quickly enough to kind of like diffuse the situation, that could maybe speak to like how much your members respect you as a club owner or how they view your leadership. Maybe it also speaks to like the quality of your staff team. Like maybe if your staff team is not keeping on top of moderating, not letting members know when they need to like use nicer language or keep stuff in certain channels. Um, it can also speak to like maybe if you're accepting people who are a bit of like drama or gossip hounds into the club, maybe you need to uh, redo your application process and your trial period so that it's easier to weed out those people so that you don't
Mm-hmm.
end up having people who kind of like like to chase drama. They're like TNZ. They're like going around trying to like instigate or like find the most dramatic situation, and then you
Yeah.
have to deal with the end result, and it's like, bruh, I don't want to clean
Yes.
up this mess. So how can you like
Yeah.
in advance kind of like stop that early or even like prevent it from even happening because you're being more upfront with what your club is like more stronger in your leadership style, and then picking your staff, and then also how you select new members, if that makes
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I definitely agree with that. I like highly agree with that point. Um, I would say drama, it honestly depends like what it is and if it involves as a critique. Because like Felix was saying, like it also involves like who you're accepting into the club. Like if you're doing anything to change you just getting like drama filled members. But honestly, it's like sometimes you can have like, a really good member and then sorry, I got a drink of water. And then like, something happens and it just creates drama or they just start creating drama. And it's
sense.
like, you know, it honestly depends if they're just out there like, like looking for like the drama for like, attention or just like wanting to start problems rather than like they're upset with the club over something that happened and then it leads into drama.
Right. So like their
Mm-hmm.
reaction, like maybe they don't know
Hmm.
how to express it any other way.
Yes.
They start like maybe being petty with other members or
Or like passive aggressive type thing.
yeah, yeah. And I think definitely like you mentioned, Ari, like when you first start out as a club owner, you're kind of learning to build those skills. So like
Hmm.
I think every club owner will encounter drama at some point. So it's like how do you like learn from each instance and you kind of like get more tools for your toolbox so that you can better deal with the next time it happens. Um,
Yes, I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm.
as Toilet likes to say, oh, to be a star stable club owner.
Oh my gosh, yep. Oh, to be a star stable club owner.
Uh,
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh.
ups and downs.
yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yep, but we must triumph. Raw.
Yes.
Do we have any further comments about this topic, or do the audience have any questions or comments before we proceed to the next one?
Oh, not for me.
Not for me. I'm doing a drum roll to see if the audience says anything. Or Jenny
Jenny
is
Oh,
the
says
audience head.
something to put on your job review, or I guess Jenny means your
Oh yeah.
resume. Yeah, you can
oh
Yeah.
my
say like
gosh.
I managed an online community of this many people for this
Yeah.
amount of time.
Dude,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'd be nervous, honestly. Like, what if they're like, you did a Pixel Pony game?
Bro, yeah. I'm scared whenever I'm going to go into a job interview and be like, yeah, so I run it like I typically just say I run a gaming organization, and then they ask, and I'm like, okay, well, now I have to explain it, and that's going to take 10 more minutes.
Yes.
I don't
Bro,
know if they
my
would want more details about the specific game. It could be like, well, how many people? Like, what were you
Yeah.
organizing? And you could say, oh, we were doing like
yeah.
hangouts online and yada yada yada,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff.
I feel like it'd definitely be like a leadership skill.
All
Oh my
right, do you
gosh,
want
what
to
me
change
said.
change the slide?
Yes. Watch me struggle. Here we go.
Oh, boomer moment for toilet.
Did it. You're so amazing.
Oh, the scroll.
Slide.
Hey. All
Yay.
right. Next topic is how much dressage should you know and how much instructing appearance do you need before starting a dressage club or team?
Okay.
Ooh.
Anyone want to start? Or do you want?
I honestly have a lot to say about this one, so I can start if you guys would like.
Me too. You good. You're good. You
Okay,
can.
okay.
I'll probably
So,
laugh.
for those who don't know the Crystal Pirates lore, way back when we first began, we were actually advertised as a beginner to intermediate club. And obviously, as we grew, I grew, that changed. But when thinking about this question, I just remembered that because, for context, I was owning a like hangout club, and I was like, okay, well, I missed dressage, obviously, because once you're in, you can't leave. So I was like, okay, I want to do dressage, and that's when Crystal Pirates was born. But I hadn't done it in a long time, and I was like, I literally cannot advertise as advanced elite because I cannot teach that stuff. So when Crystal Pirates began, our humble little beginnings, we were actually a beginner to intermediate club, and it did work out. It took a lot from me because obviously I had to keep getting better so I could teach people more stuff. Because at a point, if you don't expand your knowledge, you're just going to be repeating stuff. So I definitely think it's important to know a lot, but you can have success as long as you like state clearly what your like expertise is. So in the case of Crystal Pirates, when we began, it was beginner to intermediate, and I stated that very clearly whenever I was advertising. That's
Yes.
my little spiel
Um,
on our humble beginnings.
dude, with this, I honestly have a guilty confession. There was like a club I owned. It wasn't like, it was first starting out. I had no clue what I was doing. So honestly, I don't even count it into my experience. I probably should, but I don't. I don't even remember the name of that club, if I'm being like, it was like Emerald Lady or something like that. I'm not sure. I'd have to like go back deep into my gallery. But I owned that club, and it was like I didn't have Discord, so it wasn't like a Discord-based club. So, it also made it harder. And I
Mhm.
advertised it when I finally did get Discord. I advertised it as like a beginner to elite club, and I did not know anything of the advanced category, especially elite. But we never really like had elite members that I remember, so yeah. But anyways, back into the actual question. I just had to do a guilty confession. Um, Honestly, when I started out Blue Pearls, because that club disbanded, I don't know how long before I did Blue Pearls. I know it was like quite a few months. And I would say Blue Pearls really like started off my experience because I had a hard time committing to something that was like way back when. And so Blue Pearls like really helped me commit. And like when I first started off, it was a learning experience. There was definitely a lot going on when I first like few months of the club. But then we like eventually like I got better. But I had like barely any dressage experience. Like I barely knew about clubs. I had never really been in a club. And then I just started owning. I was in this one club, but it was like hard because there wasn't like any organization in it. It was kind of just like if you show up, you show up. And like they didn't really like post out the schedules. So I left that club. And I think I've only attended like two dressage practices. So I would say no experience with. And I would say as long as you can grasp like, the basics of like dressage, like just reading over it, practicing it, you technically don't need experience in dressage. It's more so the ability of you being able to confidently instruct and know what you're instructing. Like, if you're like, have never seen the move before, never practiced it, you can give it a go. But like it can also be like a learning experience if one of your members speaks out and be like, "Oh, I know this move. You do it like this and this." And that's honestly what happened with me. Like there were some moves I didn't know. I gave it a go. I'm like, what is happening? And then there's like some moves I'm like, oh, okay, I can read it. I can do it. Let me teach them. And it honestly worked out for me like really well because we had more beginner intermediates. We never moved to like any elite. Like we practiced it. And our members loved practicing it when we did. But we didn't like drill them on. We drilled them more on like the basics of dressage and like the basic um sorry. Like we I don't know how to word this. Oh my goodness. But
Like the
anyways,
fundamentals, or
yes, yeah, we drilled them on the fundamentals and made sure like they knew and memorized the beginner moves because it helped when you move into elite and then advanced because it kind of all builds together with the
right?
SSD dictionary that we use.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I haven't learned another dictionary other than the club I'm currently in. But anyways, I keep yapping. But honestly, as long as you're able to instruct clearly and like, not like of course like you learn, but like as long as you're able to grasp it, then you should be good. Like you don't need to know like advanced dressage and then go into instructing in my opinion.
Right.
So
So
yeah.
like what I'm picking up, so like what Toilet mentioned is like be honest with like your skill set. So if
Mm-hmm.
you can only comfortably instruct beginner to intermediate, don't advertise yourself as necessarily an advanced or elite club because say you have an advanced or elite person who joins and then you don't really know how to teach them because you haven't learned that yet.
Yeah.
And then Ari, from what you're saying, I got as long as you can kind of like learn on your own and kind of teach
Mhm.
yourself dressage so that you can later teach your members and you're comfortable instructing, then you should be fine. Like it's not like you need to be like
Yes.
a super advanced or elite rider or have like instructed like 100 hours before you start a club. As long as
Mm-hmm.
you're comfortable instructing and you're kind of like frank about what you can instruct, then you're good to go
Mm-hmm.
full send.
Yep, was it?
Yes. Full send. Um.
Jenny had a nice comment. I'll just read it. Feel like you should know at least the basics, as Ari said, and be honest about it when you advertise. Then, as the club grows, you could, of course, learn on your own. But the aspect of learning together sounds super fun. For example, today we'll learn together the planet moves. The whole club kind of learns together. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I definitely agree with that. And honestly, it made some good laughs along the way when
mm,
practicing
Yeah,
how to move. Like, honestly, I don't know what this move is.
this is literally just boat swings, just trying different things and all crying whenever we figure it out because it took so long. Oh my
That's
god.
yeah. Yeah, boaters is like where we do like kind of more like experimental stuff that's like not in any dictionary. So
uh,
we do like slant slopes, which is like slants that are not the standard 45 degrees, so they can be more acute or more
oh,
obtuse. We do non-standard pinwheels, so like box pinwheels, diamond
Mm-hmm.
pinwheels, split
oh,
pinwheels.
that sounds.
Um, yeah, so we just kind of go crazy. It's a lot of fun. That was like me the other day when we were doing the moons, and I was saying we're gonna do the eclipse this way, and then I think it was like Wilma going like, "No, that's not how you do eclipse," and I was like, "You're right, I messed up the order."
It took me so long to like memorize Eclipse because I always got like so confused with that
Mm-hmm.
move.
Yes, the moons can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
They're so fun though once you get
Oh,
them.
definitely. I
um,
don't know.
Sorry, there's just a comment from Mishi. Mishi says it's important for the members to say what they're comfortable with too, because if they act like they know everything and just guess every time, they aren't really going to learn much. So maybe too, like
Mm,
what might be important if you're thinking about starting a dressage club is, um, do you have experience with assessing the knowledge level of your members? Like maybe you instructed with a previous club or team, or maybe with a community server like PDA, JDC, or SSD, and you kind of like have had maybe a bit of experience instructing and kind of assessing the different knowledge levels of your riders or your members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you don't want people struggling.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
guys
no, that
do
is not
not
fun.
want to see me in my early days of instructing. I would have missed.
It's your
But
first
it's
day in the
definitely
club?
a learning
Yeah,
experience.
pinwheels.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, it was like near the end of Blue Girls when I finally did pinwheels with them. Honestly, I think Toilet taught me how to do pinwheels.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
pinwheels.
be so honest.
I love it. Starting
But
to think.
yes.
Okay, I have something. I'm interested to see what you guys. If you guys have
hmm
probably heard about this, the quality versus quantity thing. I don't know if you
Mm,
guys have heard about that. Does that ring a
Yep.
bell?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Especially when it comes to dressage clubs, I feel like there's this big discussion of like quality versus quantity. And honestly, most people in this community, I feel like look for the quote unquote like elite dressage clubs. So if you
Yeah.
are advertising as a smaller club, you may not get members quickly, but that is totally okay because, quality over quantity. But I was interested to
Yes.
see, do you think it can be good in this community to have a quantity over quality mindset? Why or why not?
Oh. Um.
As in, the amount of clubs that are there that maybe don't offer elite, but they only do beginner intermediate, or what do you mean by quantity over
Yeah,
quality?
so like quality over quantity, as in like elite dressage clubs, sometimes people think quality, I need to just train my members, I need to focus on curriculum.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously there's the flip side of that. Or you could think of it as like, we just need 50 people so we can make this routine happen, whichever way you want to think
Okay.
about it.
Okay. All right. It can be interpreted any which way. All right. Did you have
Mhm.
a thought, Ari? Do you want to go ahead?
Um. I was gonna say that like mainly in the dressage community, like a lot of people say like quality over quantity. Quantity doesn't matter, and honestly, it doesn't because I was so happy with like it made it really hard when like you wanted to do competitions, you wanted to move your members up to like advance to like get competition experience, but you don't have them. Like let's say SST, which is what we always look to do, but we never did. Um, let's say we're competing, sorry, in like the standard, which is usually like less strict, less members that you need. It's definitely hard because if you don't have like the amount needed for like the mains and then the alts for those people, it makes it really hard. So I would say that like quantity does come in place with that. But let's say you're like a 30 member club, then quality comes in place over quantity because like you want your members to feel comfortable learning with you and growing with you rather than the owner just focusing on like, oh, we have 50 people, but I don't want to get to know my club members. Like I'm just going to teach them and call it a day.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
For me personally, like I think when you're thinking about starting your dressage club or team, is what is your overall goal? Toilet is really good at this. We do uh, like at the end of the year, we think about our goals for the next year, and then we also try to do that like quarterly. So every 3 months, we'll think, okay, we just did this in the past 3 months. The next 3 months, this is like our big goal or goals that we're
Yeah.
looking at. So this is also a chance if you do like to do this, if you do like to be really kind of like organized, you can also give this as an opportunity for your members to give feedback. So say like you're slowly growing and you're thinking, oh, okay, I have enough members now. I think we're ready to maybe try a competition, and you can like have a meeting with them like in call and say like, hey, these are the competitions coming up from like these 3 or 4 different servers, and this is the required amount of writers for each, and the timeline and the themes. uh, is there any that really speak to you? What does everybody's schedule look like? Who can commit to what? Um, but I think too, uh, if you're just trying to get members in order to have enough writers to compete, you may then later down the road run into problems because if you have newer members join who maybe are like more go-getters, like they put in the effort to come to practice and all that stuff. But then you have your older members who got in when you were just looking for quantity in order to have enough riders. They might be going like, why is this person still here? They aren't making
Hmm.
the effort. I don't know. It's a bit of like a tricky thing.
Or
So in my opinion, if you really want to compete and you want to have a competitive club or team, it's even if it really hurts, you got to be more like strict about attendance, especially when it comes to competition practices. And if those people are not committing, then I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
or
definitely
like
agree.
or like if there's people who are not showing up as consistently as they need to, you go, okay, you can be an alt, but you can't be a main rider because the main riders need to be there most of the time.
Mhm.
um,
Yes.
but it depends. Also, too, if you're not a competitive club, then maybe you're just like, yeah, if you just want to do dressage here and there, and that's fine. Like we're more chill. But if you're a competitive club, I do
Hmm.
think you need to be a little bit more strict because it gets frustrating when you get close to recording time and there's not enough people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
stressful for the choreographer, I will say.
Yeah.
Hmm. I just thought of something. So we're talking about obviously instructing experience, and obviously you just brought up comps. This is me thinking, what's if you guys could think of anything, what's like one big takeaway you've had when it comes to competing that you've learned or kind of picked up along the way that you could impart to the people listening?
Ooh, I'll let Felix go first if you want.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So the club I was in before Crystal Pirates was Slow Girls, and I did choreo one competition for them, which was SSD's The Space Odyssey. And through that, I think that was my first experience. I really learned like you would have a lot of people say, "Hey, yeah, I want to ride, I want to participate," and then maybe one third of them like they were not showing up. So I had to really pare down the routine just for the amount of riders that were showing up consistently. Like we didn't even have any. And then Toilet was my teacher for learning how to like choreo, I guess in like a more organized way. And because Toilet has a lot of experience, and so kind of, and I'm still learning. Like even with the most
Mhm.
recent one we did, Echoes of Tomorrow, we kind of organized how our mains and alts communicated, but we got some feedback from several of the people who wrote in the routine and for like better ways um, to do stuff in the future. So like one thing we're going to do for next time. So for Echoes of Tomorrow, since we just had 6 riders, if we had somebody who maybe had missed a couple of practices for whatever reason, I would spend practice time kind of catching them up so they could ride with everybody else. But we got some good feedback about the other people would get kind of bored waiting while we were kind of teaching this other person up to the next part in the routine. Yeah, our meatballs. So we got
Yes, the
some good
meatballs.
feedback of like, so if you're an alt or a main rider, doesn't matter which, it's your responsibility to communicate with whoever rode your spot last practice and
Mm.
find time with them for them to teach you. Or like you thoroughly take notes or a recording so they can learn from that on their own. And then we're going to be a little stricter too. Like if you're missing too many practices, then you might be bumped down to an alt writer or a secondary alt writer because it's not fair to the mains who consistently show up and the alts who consistently show up if we have somebody who's just here there meh.
Hmm.
And yeah, so just really stressing that communication. Take good notes, record if you can, communicate well with your alt if you're the main or with your main if you're an alt, and then everybody's happy. Oh, the other thing that I learned, especially with Crystal Pirates, is when you're planning your next comp and you talk with your club members, you're like, okay, we're going to commit to this one. You want, say you need 6 riders, you want at least 3 alts. So half the amount of riders you need for the routine. Because if you just have 6 mains and no alts, you're gonna struggle real bad.
Yeah.
Um, it sometimes this is not possible when you're first starting out because your amount of members is really low. The more meatballs, the merrier. Exactly. So as you
Yes.
grow, um, kind of try and have at least half the alts that you need for the total amount of riders. Have them follow the mains on foot, or you can have them ride like a couple run throughs at the beginning or the end of practice, so they get a feeling for that. But yeah, the more meatballs, the merrier. Yes, we love our meatballs. We love our alt riders.
Mhm. Yes, I honestly definitely agree with that last part of making sure you have. Um, Spoiler definitely knows about this. Was in the routine to help me. We did a showcase, Blue
Mhm.
Girls, and let's just say it was they all put in the best efforts possible, but we didn't have so it was really, really difficult. And so, I kind of scrambled. I was like, because I really wanted to finish it. I'm like, okay, I know a bunch of people. I'm gonna do what I can best as possible. I'm gonna do what I do. And I just like, contacted people. I'm like, hey, would you be interested in writing this blah blah blah? And like, I got a few people who were like, yeah, sure. And Toilet was one of them. You did absolutely amazing. It's definitely
Thank you.
stressful, I would say. Like, you want to make sure you have people, and then, like you were saying, half the alt at least, because it's definitely stressful for like your writers and the choreographer and like whoever's instructing. Like, you just want to make sure, like, okay, if that person's gone, I can teach this person their spot, or they will already know their spot. It would definitely make it easier because you're just gonna stress yourself out if you don't have any alls. It can be done. It can be done. But it's just like really hard, especially if you have a deadline. We didn't have a deadline, but we did want to get it done because there's a few members who weren't able to do it after a certain time. So it'd be gone a few weeks. So we're like, okay, let's get this done. We want to get this done. But like if it's like a competition that needs to be submitted, you definitely make sure you have all. It's just so you're not practicing and practicing and then end up not being able to take.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I'm nodding my head. Y'all can't see me though.
Yes, nodding your head. But yeah, that's like mainly my thing.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. I would say I don't have like any competition experience because I've never ridden in a competition until Gold Arts that I'm in now. And we're doing RR1. And I'm in alt because like I joined the club when like the routine was already planned and they already had main writers. And I'm alt for one of my friend, Mads. But like it's definitely like just from learning about like, when we're trying to get our take because now it's down to the time of submitting for R1 and getting your takes. It can be definitely stressful. Like you can see the stress that like some people have, especially if like you have like a lot of people gone in one day. I would just say that you have to be expecting a lot of stress just because like, you're like worried like, oh, are we gonna get a good take or is this gonna work out okay? And like you want it to work out okay because you put all
Hmm.
your time and energy and love into the competitions. Like you just have to be making sure that you take extra time to like decompress and be like, okay, we're gonna get in there and no matter what happens, it's gonna be okay.
Hmm.
Right. Stay
But yeah,
positive.
Yes.
yes, that's definitely what we try doing, honestly. That's what I've learned, like no matter what happens.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's
Do you have some funks, Toilet?
Yeah, let me think. You've already touched on some of the stuff. For comp experience, one of my biggest things, I did this in RRD's Internationals routine in 2023, is recording point of views of you teaching a spot. So, for example, there's routine spot 1, 2, 3, 4. You literally just go to the arena, you record yourself teaching the spot. It's just you, but you just record it. So that later, whenever, say, it's the last day of submissions and you have three alternates, but they only know one spot, and you're missing third rider spot, but they don't know that spot, you can say, hey, go watch the video. And so you can still warm up
Mhm.
with everybody else and they can kind of do the learning on their own time. And that also takes a load off your shoulder because then you don't have to be like, oh, okay, everybody go stand at the stands for 10 minutes so I can go speed teach this person. And then they're probably not even going to grasp the routine fully. So
Yeah.
it's definitely nice to have the point of views so that you can just be like, hey, whenever you have a moment, please just watch the video, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
I've never thought of
That's,
that, but I definitely agree.
yeah, that's my biggest thing. And then the Google Doc. We tried the
Oh
form this
yes.
time, like you mentioned, Felix, like
Yeah.
EOT. We tried forms and that was really good. I want to keep doing that. But previously we've been using Google Docs and it's like, hey, everybody gets a spot on the sheet on the Google Doc and you just write notes. And that is pretty good. But also something that I've realized, which is why I'm kind of happy we're doing the form, is whenever you do like a Google Doc, some people just won't take notes, period. But it's also kind of like putting a barrier, if that makes sense, because people have to go the extra step to like find the Google Doc, open it, find their spot.
Hmm.
So Felix, I really like that we're doing forms because then it's just like, okay, I just go to my form and it's already there, and I don't have to open a Google Doc and do any of that.
Yeah,
Honestly,
the
I'm
forum
gonna.
is nice because you can like
Mhm.
dump like your notes in there between the main and the alt writers, diagrams. So I did draw some diagrams for EOT, and then some of the mains would take just the diagram for them specifically and plop it into
Mhm.
their forum. If you record yourself, like Toilet did that a couple times when Toilet was alting, Toilet would record herself doing that
Mhm.
spot and then send it into the associated forum post. Um, yeah, it's definitely helpful, like to kind of like keep the
Mhm.
communication kind of like organized, like per spot in the routine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Honestly, like, just a thought that I had. What you said about like some people just don't take notes.
Mm,
Um, like that's like a thing that everyone comes across because sometimes like people like aren't good at like writing down, hey, this is how you do it, or like explaining. Um, or like they just genuinely forget to update their spot. But like what I've learned is that kind of helps. Of course, like the forums that you were mentioning, that's also like really smart. I've never thought about that. But we do this thing where like they create a thread and like there's a spot channel and you create a thread for like
mm,
each writer. So like
yep,
you're able to communicate and like let's say if an alt writes for you while you're still learning the spot, like you don't know the full spot, they're able to just pop in there and be like under your specific spot and be like, hey, we learned on, the die line do a left curl.
yeah,
Mhm.
Um and so like it can stay like communicative for like each spot. I definitely
hmm
feel like you don't want to do the forms. That also helps.
Yes.
But the forms, I've never thought of that.
Yes, Felix, you cooked with that. I remember seeing. I was like,
Say,
okay, this is interesting. We're gonna try a form. I was like, I never thought of
I'm
that.
not fired this time. Yippee.
Yeah, don't add a tally. Oh my gosh.
I think the recording though, that idea was actually really it helps take stress off
Yeah.
your shoulders if you have like all this
Mhm.
last minute on your spot. Because like an hour
Mhm.
before, it's like it's really crunching down that time if you have like three people who need to learn like a full routine.
Mm,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, and that's also like a full circle moment because if you focus on quality, then maybe they'll be able to learn the routine quicker.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mind
I
blown.
definitely I really like that idea.
Um, I will say too, something I started doing for EOT is when I would send out like the reminder for the competition practice is I would take a note of who reacted yes, that they were coming, that they would maybe be there late or not. And then I would note which mains would be there for sure. If some of them might be there or late, I would then check which alts had responded and preemptively go, okay, I know that Toilet already knows, for example, Wilma's spot. So if Wilma can't make it today, because Wilma said maybe, I'm not sure, then Toilet I know for sure can ride Wilma's spot. And then I would just go down like that. So when practice started, I could say, okay, today Toilet, you're riding this spot. Sunny, you're riding this spot. Magpie, you're gonna do this. And then oh, these three mains are here, we're good. And then if you had extra alts, you're gonna meatball with this person, with this person, with this person.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was kind of like scrambling at the start of practice to figure out who needed to go where. I would like ahead of time, I'd
Mhm.
watch the reactions come in and assign who was doing what based on that.
I
Yeah.
also, sorry, just a thought kind of like popped into my head. It was mentioned earlier. It definitely helps when you have your mains communicating with like any alt that like, let's say
Mm-hmm.
like you have an alt learning a spot to become like official art alt. Sorry. I don't know how I pronounce it like that. Anyways, but they're learning the spot to become an official alt. So like, they can lock in and help with practice. Or
Mm-hmm.
like some clubs do universal alts where it's like they alt for anybody who needs it.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
definitely feel like communication with your mains is really important because if you have like emergencies happen, like last minute be like, oh my gosh, something happened, I can't be there. That's like, it's not your fault, but if you know you're not going to be there, like I feel like it definitely helps when that main is like early before like practice. Let's say like 5 hours before practice. They're like, hey, I won't be there. I don't have an alt. Can anybody learn my spot? And then like to help take
Mhm.
stress off of the choreographer and instructor, be like, I can teach you from X amount of time to X amount of time, but after that, I can't
Mm-hmm.
teach you. So, is anyone able to log on and learn my spot? I definitely feel like it helps if mains help teach their spot as well.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all I had.
Play.
Do we have any final thunks for this topic?
Not for me.
I think I'm Gucci guacamole.
Okay.
Audience,
Just
audience.
my final thunk is that as the owner or whoever head instructor is, if you as the owner are not the head instructor, you're setting the standard for instructing within the club. So that comes down to like your level of energy, how thorough you are, your style of instructing. So that's another thing to consider too. Like, if you're as your club grows and you're trying to find new instructors, can they adapt to your style? Or like how comfortable are you with them teaching differently? Like some
Mhm.
some instructors are stricter, some are like more flexible. If you want to train instructors in the future as well, do you think you would be comfortable teaching people how to instruct? So I would say that's like maybe one final thing to kind of think about. It will probably be down the line. You're not going to be doing that right at
Yeah.
first, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Good
definitely
to have in the
agree.
back of your mind.
All right. We have no further comments, questions, concerns, quibbles. I think we are Gucci Guacamole. We're all done. Yippee!
Stay,
That
stay,
was
stay. I'm dancing, but you can't see it.
Thank
Naughty
you for
one had
joining us,
aggressive.
Ari.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. You guys are so amazing to talk.
Always fun to yap.
Yes,
Yes,
certified yappers.
yapping.
Certified yappers unite. Let's go.
All right. You guys have an amazing night.
You too.
You too, Pookie.
Have a
Bye.
good one. Bye.
I got a grandma exit out the slides.
Yeah.
Remember moment.
Uh.
That is without doubt the worst pirate I have ever seen.
Gentlemen, my lady, you will always remember this as the day that you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow.